Hi folks, it's Ben again. Come to a local beach for a walk this morning. It's an absolutely beautiful morning. It's quite cool, which is good. Got my feet on the cold sand. I'm just going for a wander in the quiet, listening to the birds and the waves breaking on the shore, away from everything. Now the reason why I'm making a video today is I've seen so much lately around men's mental health, and there's so many men like me who've been absolutely through the ringer in the last few years, been through the family breakdown, lost one of my kids, haven't seen her for 5 years, and I'm not going to see her again by the look of it. So there's things we have to deal with. They're not easy to deal with. They're not things we can change, but we have to move on. And our mental health is impacted in so many ways, and it's very, very hard to keep positive. Now there's some things we can do. There's some things we can't do. There's things we can't change. But we need to keep going. And so I've got some things that I want to share with you. Things that I've learned about what I can do to help myself on the journey, to get myself back into a state where I feel like there's a future. And I feel like I'm going to feel happiness again. Because there have been periods where I never thought that would be possible. So let's do my top 5 things that we can do, changes we can make in our lives that will be better for us. Number 1 is this, exactly what I'm doing. Get out, get away, get into nature. Get somewhere where you're away from people, away from screens, where you can actually just think. Now, one of the things that really contributes to stress is actually language processing. So what I'm doing at the moment is probably counterproductive, but when people speak in tongues, it seems a very strange thing to a lot of us. You see people in churches doing this, speaking in tongues, and they seem to talk gibberish. And it's actually a form of meditation. And I looked up why they do it and what the actual, because there are benefits to it. Strangely, people actually feel better afterwards. And the reason why is because when they're doing that, talking gibberish, they're shutting down the language processing part of the brain. If you can do that for a while, you can actually reduce your stress level. And so meditation does the same thing. People meditate and they say chants and stuff. The words don't mean anything. The words are not important. What the words are doing is blocking out your language processing. So that's one thing you can do. And getting out into nature like this, there's no language here. If you can just absorb nature, absorb the sounds, the smells, the feel of the sand. It doesn't have to be on a beach, it can be in the bush, it can be in a park, it can be anywhere. But get outside. Early in the morning's a good thing. It does help because being out, getting that sunlight in the morning as the sun's coming up is actually invigorating and does wake up the senses. But you can do it any time. It still works. So that's number 1, get out, get into nature, allow yourself to deprogram a little bit from humans, from society, from all the things that bring you stress. Number 2 is get organised. So this one's back at home, in your life, in your work. Do your dishes. Seems a strange thing, but the world you create around yourself is a reflection on you. So if you have a dirty house and it's a mess, it reflects upon you, and you know the reason why it's a mess is because you're a mess. I'm not a fan of Jordan Peterson. He started out reasonably sensible and went completely radical, and now he just talks a lot of rubbish. But one thing he did say that made sense, and I think he's worth listening to, is he said, when he said make your bed, what he meant was get yourself in order, get your house in order, get your life in order. If you're at work, get yourself organised, don't let people down, do the things you need to do, because you know that that's a reflection on you, on how you are. And it's important to reflect and see a world that you created, that's a world created by somebody who's got their stuff together and is functioning. And when you get that reflection, it makes you feel better about yourself. So you've got to get yourself in order. Everything you do, make sure you do it well. Now the third thing is get fit. Physical fitness is linked very closely to mental health. And there are huge benefits to you of doing exercise. When you do exercise, you actually break down all those stress hormones. So things like cortisol and adrenaline build up in your body when you're stressed, and you need to do some exercise to break them down. The reason why they're there is because they are for fight or flight. They are to enable you to do what you need to do to get out of trouble. Now, when you feel stress, it's your hormones telling you you're in trouble. You might not be in any physical danger. It's just emotional distress. But if you feel like you're in trouble and your body's reacting in that way, then you need to act in a physical way. Your body's expecting you to act in a physical way. If you don't, it just sits there. So it's really important to do the exercise every day. Get that workout, whatever you do, riding an exercise bike, going for a walk, something brisk, something with a little bit of force in it, something that's actually going to cause your heart rate to rise. But it does help to break down those stress hormones. And you'll find you'll feel better afterwards, even if you don't feel particularly good when you're doing it. That's not always the case. Sometimes exercise can feel pretty awful, especially when you're working really hard, but you get used to it. And gym junkies thrive on it. They actually get addicted to the adrenaline, to the hormones that are created when you start to work really hard. So you got to do your exercise. Now the third one is get sexy. Now I'll show you a photo here of my transformation over the last couple of years. And it hasn't been a huge transformation by a lot of standards, because I wasn't drastically overweight, but I was a bit overweight. And I decided to lose it. So I went, I ran, I walked, I rode, I did gym, did all the things that I need to do to lose that bit of weight and get fit. And then I even did weird things like waxing my chest, just so when I look in the mirror, I didn't feel slightly physically ill. I felt a little bit better about myself in a physical sense. These rocks are sharp. But that's good. You need to feel okay about yourself, because we all get very obsessed with what other people think of us. In reality, that means nothing. Doesn't matter what other people think. We use what other people think to guide how we feel about ourselves. But we don't need to rely on them. How we feel about ourselves comes from how we feel when we look in the mirror. So when you look in the mirror, make sure you're looking at someone you want to be, not someone that you don't want to be. So it's really important. The last thing you need to do is get productive. Don't sit around doing nothing. And when you do things, do them well. Set yourself goals, achieve them, you get the satisfaction from that. Because every little thing you do makes you feel a bit better about yourself, contributes to your mental health. Now, movie quotes from Arnold Schwarzenegger aren't really renowned for being particularly philosophical or inspirational. And yet, there's one thing he said once that stuck with me forever. He was in the jungle being pursued by an invisible beast that was gradually killing off their team. And they were shooting at it blindly, hoping they could hit it. And somebody must have nicked it. And they found some monster blood stuck to some leaves. And Arnie said, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." And I think that's actually worth hanging on to, because what I'm talking about in this series is the things you can do. There's so many things you can't change. Don't worry about them. Change the things you can. And you make progress and you start to feel a little bit better, and that can snowball. Because when you feel better, you'll start doing things. When you start doing things, you'll feel even better. And you'll start to feel enjoyment in life. So don't stop. Start doing the things you can do. Get yourself organised, get yourself fit, get out, and start to bring back the person that you want to be. Start to look at yourself again and see someone who's going somewhere, someone who's got a future. In the meantime, let's just enjoy the birds and the water.